It's Friday, May 8th, 2026. Is Iran even real at this point? Chaos in Tennessee and a little concern about Rubio. Next on the AM Update. Thank you once again for listening and maybe for all 5 of you watching this week on the AM Update. More on that latter bit in just a little bit. I appreciate each and every one of you for your support as always. If you think of it on this Friday, if you enjoy what I do, the service I try to provide here on the AM Update, would you give me a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice? That is greatly appreciated, and I appreciate each and every one of you, as I've said 3 times now so far this morning. Let's get to our Friday 5-pack, leading off with, again, Iran. This is such a dominant story, but I'm starting to get sick of it, as I've said. And it's just, is it just a big old episode of Punk'd now at this point? Is Iran even real? Is the Middle East even a real region? So I think it was Monday, or maybe late Sunday. I can't remember. All these days are running together now. President Trump announced the Project Freedom, ensuring U.S. naval protection for civilian vessels trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Less than 48 hours later, he said, at the behest of Pakistan and other countries in the area, no more Project Freedom. Now there are reports circulating in that Project Freedom is back on. CENTCOM detailed yesterday how they are beginning to protect these shipping containers and vessels again, something like that. I mean, I don't know. It's back on, it's back off. Now there's reports as well that the United Arab Emirates launched an attack on Iran. Still very unclear what the scale of that attack was as well. And then there were reports earlier this week that Saudi Arabia was actually the impetus for the canceling of the newly formed Project Freedom, because I don't understand really the reasoning. There were reports, and then there were more reports. So Saudi Arabia decided, hey, you can't use our air bases anymore as long as you've got this Project Freedom going on. So that's the real reason why Project Freedom was canceled. And then later this week, on Thursday, there were reports that Saudi Arabia said, "No, Joe, just kidding. You can use our..." I mean, this is just chaos. Just chaos at this point. So there's the story. Still a dominant story. Doing my best to try to keep abreast of it. But it's really difficult. It's really difficult, especially when the news that you can keep abreast of is just Trump saying their military is completely decimated. Their military is completely decimated. They're beaten. They should know this. Their military is gone. We destroyed it over and over again, every day for 6 weeks. I'll still keep trying to follow it. Let's go to this, though, back in our own country. The Tennessee State House completely erupted into chaos yesterday as Democrats melted down. Lawmakers in Tennessee's legislature eliminated Democrats' only congressional district in the state of Tennessee in a newly drawn map. Tennessee lawmakers in the State House of Representatives passed a map that splits Memphis along new congressional lines and eliminates the Democrats' advantage in the 9th district. Democrats in the chamber shouted at the top of their lungs after the map had officially passed, including this guy. You've heard of him before. His name is Justin Pearson. He's made scenes before in the Tennessee legislature. He got in the face of a Tennessee state trooper, telling him, hey, watch it, you mother bleeper. What the bleep is wrong with you? Really getting into this trooper's face. Luckily, it's lucky he didn't get arrested. That trooper really looked terrified, actually, of the state legislator getting in his face. Democrats in the Tennessee State House just completely mucking things up. I mean, it looked, dare I say, insurrection-y. We had people standing on tables in the chamber of the Tennessee, I believe it was House, maybe it was the Senate as well. Nevertheless, that map was passed. So now another likely Republican pickup, making it 9-0 in the volunteer state. Story number 3, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Pope Leo to discuss the situation in the Middle East and topics of mutual interest in the Western Hemisphere. According to the Secretary of State's readout, the meeting underscored the strong relationship between the United States and the Holy See. Mary Margaret Olohan, I believe at the Daily Wire, White House correspondent, had this scoop as well. I want to read you this from Mary Margaret Olohan. Background on Secretary Rubio's meeting with Pope Leo this morning. A source familiar with the protocol tells me that the Holy See, quote-unquote, exceeded expectations in their warm welcome of Secretary Rubio. That behavior, I'm told, demonstrates strong ties between the U.S. and the Holy See. The Holy See also arranged Rubio's motorcade to enter through the Arch of Bells, usually reserved for the head of a state, a special mark of respect for Rubio. The Vatican sent the prefect of the papal household, Archbishop Peter Rajic, to meet and greet Rubio as he arrived in the San Damaso courtyard, where Rubio and his delegation were then greeted by the full Swiss honorary guard. Okay, that's all well and good. Marco Rubio is a Catholic. J.D. Vance went and met the Pope, and J.D. Vance is a Catholic and didn't get this reception. I had this pointed out to me as well. That clip that I lauded yesterday of Marco Rubio talking about his vision for America, same as it's always been. He dropped a line in there as well, that anybody from anywhere can do anything. I took that to mean from Memphis to Spokane to Reno to Cameron, Arizona to Elizabethton, Tennessee. That's what I took that to mean, anybody from anywhere. People are saying that really sounds like globalist talking points, and this is Amnesty Rubio coming through again. I can see how you would take it that way. I could see how you could take his statement that way. I didn't, but again, I don't fault you if you took it the other way. But then you take that and this unusually warm greeting for Rubio from this Pope. That's kind of weird. And when I say this Pope, I mean, we talked about this earlier this week. This is the Pope who is appointing former illegal aliens as the Bishop of West Virginia, trying to get in fights with the White House over the Iran war and other matters. Well, at the same time, yes, I mean, every Pope on paper and maybe even in some public appearances is going to be strong against abortion, but that seems to be more of the pressing issue of our time rather than, at least moral issue, rather than, hey, you're being mean by having borders. I don't know. I think Marco Rubio has been a fantastic Secretary of State. But those two things taken together, hitting me on the same day, got my spidey senses tingling just a little bit. Let's go to this. Story number 4. Also the let's call it controversy of the day. Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch gave an interview to National Review. He's got a new book out aimed at teens, and I think the aim of this book is to inspire teens about what is really special about America. That's a good aim, and much of what you hear here is really good, and it's really good red meat, and it's laudable. It should be praiseworthy. But there is one operative phrase that Neil Gorsuch drops that got everybody up in a tizzy.
We're incredibly interesting people.
He's talking about the 56 signers.
And their stories are moving. We forget that the revolution was 8 bloody, long years. A third of the signers had their homes destroyed. Many of them were imprisoned. Some of their wives were imprisoned. Some of their children were imprisoned. And many of them gave their fortunes to the revolution and died poor as a result of it. So telling those stories of courage and sacrifice, we hope might inspire a few young minds and make them realize the Declaration's 3 big ideas are not inevitable. They were not inevitable, and their preservation is not inevitable, and that the torch passes to each generation. And we're a creedal nation. What unites us is not a religion, it's not a race, it's a belief in those 3 ideals. That's our mission statement as a country. And if the people don't get inspired to learn about them and believe in them, well, the baton drops.
Now, almost everything he says there, that's Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, is right on the money. You have to pass on to your progeny, to the next generation, You have to pass on that which can actually sustain a republic. And he points out the three big ideas of the Declaration of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal with certain unalienable rights given to them by God. The government can't take away, and that government exists by consent of the governed. Now, the operative phrase that he dropped there, that everybody's working themselves into a lather over, is we are a creedal nation. Now, what does that mean? We could do a long time on this, but essentially that means that we don't really, the makeup of our nation is not really its borders, it's not really its people, it's a creed. Now, I think it was Chesterton. Let me look this up. I believe it was Chesterton. Chesterton, America, founded on a creed. Yes, America is the only nation in the world founded on a creed. He did that in his 1922 book, What I Saw in America. Speaking of Marco Rubio, time for a water break. So that's what people are trying to invoke, but it's been used and applied more broadly. Back in a time when the dominant kind of worldview of this culture was one of Protestant Christianity, you could make the case, because it was so dominant, that as long as you were actually forced to abide by the customs and culture of our country, the inculcation thereof, then yes, you could kind of see America as a creedal nation, if that even exists, which is kind of an oxymoron. However, the reason why it has been so controversial to say that in recent times is because we have acted under the guise of a new creed. Neil Gorsuch is correct. We are still a creedal nation. Except the creed that we either explicitly or de facto have been living under is this: there are no nations. That's the creed of America. That's the creedal nation America. There are no nations. And that's where the rub comes in. That's why you allow millions upon millions upon millions of illegal aliens into this country, eroding the culture that we once had, eroding maybe the creed that you could make the case that we once lived by. And that's why people are so upset about this, in my estimation. Because it's something that sounds nice, something that sounds nice to kick around. But when you really examine, well, what is the creed? Okay, if it's a good creed that all men are created equal, given certain unalienable rights that are given by God, which God, the God of the Bible, and that government exists by consent of the governed. All right, let's enforce that. Well, that makes some people get really anxious as well, even wearing our jerseys. So maybe you saw this going around. That's my take on it. That's my read of the situation, why people are so working themselves into a lather over Justice Neil Gorsuch's comments. Going along on this Friday 5-pack, let's end it here. During a ceremony at the White House this week honoring mothers of troops, the mother of Andrew Wolfe, that's that National Guardsman who was shot at and hit in Washington, D.C. by that Afghan national back around Thanksgiving, she was invited to speak. And I think what she has to say is a good way to end this news week on the AM Update.
I first want to say that we had the nation behind us at a time when nobody thought our boy would make it. He was 24 years old. He was a young man on the streets of D.C. A shot to the left part of his brain. We have a strong faith in God, and God is what brought our son through this. He gave us an amazing backing. He gave us amazing doctors. He gave us amazing nurses, and our community, our nation, our community, are just all of the support, and the support of the White House medical staff. Incredible. Anything that our son needed was met. We are just truly thankful, and we're a little over 5 months. He came home from the hospital April 2nd. And he is now enjoying being home. He's getting back into playing golf. He loves cornhole, as you know. Yes. He loves doing so many activities, and so we're truly blessed that we're able to get him into some outpatient care closer to home. We do have another surgery coming up in September, and just recovery is my understanding that will happen for quite some time, but I have no doubt that he will be 100% back to Andrew within a few years. And
what a great report from the mother of Andrew Wolfe, that National Guardsman in Washington, D.C., who was shot, nearly killed. You heard his mom there say that bullet went right into his head, nearly killed, and how his faith saw him through, and now he is on the mend back home, picking up hobbies that he once thought maybe he would never be able to do again. Good way to end the week of news here on the AM Update. When we come back, it's your turn to tell me news or ask me any question you want. That's coming up next. Ask or tell me anything on the AM Update. Ask me any question you want. Tell me any news story you think needs covered here on the AM Update. First, a little bit of housekeeping. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I was either in a spot with the AM Update where, because of all the issues I've had with the podcast host, I was either going to quit because it was becoming too much hassle or double down. Well, I'm doubling down. As a few of you have noticed, not sure how you found this channel, I have started posting video of the AM Update on YouTube. Let me find my handle. I think maybe I need to make this more accessible because it might just be a string of numbers. Yeah, I need to adjust that. So I'm not going to tell. Actually, no, it's at Aaron McIntire. It's at Aaron McIntire, youtube.com/@AARONMCINTIRE. That might need to be changed in the future. But that's where I am on YouTube. That's where I'm posting the AM Update on YouTube. Let me see if you can actually find it there as I do this in real time. Yeah, at Aaron McIntire on YouTube. What this is just me on camera talking into the camera. I do play clips, but it's not, you can't see the clips being played. I can't do that quite yet without adding a lot of extra work and time to this, which I don't have at this juncture. If I can grow this to an average of 1,000, 1,500 viewers a day on YouTube, which would take a long time. But if I can do that, I might invest in some more equipment that would allow me to actually play the clips so you could see them. Occasionally, I might throw in post-production, I might throw in a clip here or there. So that's what that is. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think that's the next step to hopefully maybe one day expanding the AM Update. And also, if I'm going to do this, I have to be able to get it out to the audience. I just have to. I don't make any money on YouTube, and I won't for a long time. But at least if I'm not going to make money, and I'm going to do this, I have to be able to distribute it. And my podcast host has just been so unreliable. And so this is the place where you can go and get the AM Update if I'm having podcast host issues. So the YouTube channel is now live. Also want to let you know as well, come Monday morning, a lot of rebranding of the AM Update will come to pass as well. So the show, unfortunately for you, is going to sound pretty much exactly the same. Unfortunately. You're subjecting yourself to my mediocrity every single morning. That's not going anywhere, but the branding will change, I think, for the better as well. So that is coming your way. A little bit of housekeeping on this Friday morning. Let's get to what you have to say on Ask or Tell Me Anything. Let's go to James first. James sent this blog post. I'm going to read the whole shebang because I think it's right on the money. James Moon sent this to me. It's from this blog. I've never heard of it. Looks like a Substack. The Conundrum Cluster. Written May 31st, 2025. The title of this blog post: We need a new right-wing party based around histrionic, middle-aged social media addicts, proposing that we let liberals win whenever setbacks are encountered, real or imagined. That's the headline. Holy bleep. Holy bleep. Did you guys hear about the bill? Did you guys hear about the court case? Did you hear about the quote? I've been one of Trump's most loyal supporters since my most recent tantrum when I condemned him last week, but I truly think it's over this time, guys. I'm angry. This thing I just heard of, it made me angry. Something else made me angry last week, and even though it ended up almost immediately proving to not be a big deal, I don't remember that at all. I do remember that I felt angry, and because I'm no longer able to process my emotions due to the addictive nature of online catastrophizing, those unjustified feelings only serve to ratify my present ill-formed panic. I talked to the rest of my digital support group, and we all agreed we're really angry and scared. Even though the situation is objectively the best it's been in decades, and we have a historic opportunity to transform American society now into a narrow and shrinking window of time, Trump's inability to prevent all bad things from happening, magically correct problems that have been decades or even centuries in the making, and stop stupid people from saying stupid things after 5 months in office. This is written in May 31st of 2025, by the way. This reflects a deep and profound failure that I could have never anticipated and shouldn't be expected to navigate. We need a new plan and new direction. Instead of trying to find a way to help our elected representatives implement policies we support, instead of organizing a primary effort to replace objectionable figures over the year and a half we have to prepare, instead of creating some sort of internal organization or institutional force to achieve our political goals, instead of participating in the systems we pretend to care about, we have to let liberals win. If we let liberals win, Republicans will finally understand that I shouldn't feel angry or scared anymore. If we let liberals win, the unconscious emotional investment I've developed in my predictions of defeats coming true will pay off. If we let liberals win, we won't have to take responsibility for our own success or failure. There are really no downsides in letting liberals win, other than liberals winning a concern that I consider secondary to obtaining vindication over my intra-factional rivals because I'm incapable of depersonalizing politics, which I view as an identity signifier and vehicle for self-expression because I interact with it through the distorting lens of social media. Someone who is unable to let events play out for a year or a month or a few days is invaluable in times of crisis. Someone who must be talked off the ledge every week is a huge asset. Someone who is upset that Republicans are not doing enough in Congress and concludes from this that we need to give Democrats more power in Congress has a lot of good ideas. Constantly embellishing failures and minimizing successes is critical to creating an effective and motivated political force. If there's one thing recent events have made clear, it's that in conservative politics, there's a huge surplus of people who are capable of productive action and a huge shortage of hyperbolic internet commentary, unachievable fantasies, and reasons to lose. Before you object to this proposal, please know that I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. We let liberals win for the right reasons. Even though what I'm saying is not true, premature, poorly supported, or merely unhelpful, please know that my feelings of panic and despair are very real and therefore above reproach. Politics is not about achieving things in the real world, but rather about feeling heard and understood. It's about that dopamine rush that accompanies vocalizing your anxieties, especially when you can validate the anxieties of others to maximize engagement. It's about the psychodrama that follows getting angry at your phone. It's very likely that whatever I'm angry about will soon be revealed as not a big deal as I'm making it out to be. A new story will probably emerge to capture my attention, or a perhaps even good news story will arrive that washes away whatever the media cycle carried to shore. However, my volatile feelings will always linger and grow with the generalized sense of negativity and helplessness that I'm helping to craft, ready to explode outward at the next twist of fate. See you next week. That is the blog post written May 31st, 2025. We need a new right-wing party based around histrionic middle-aged social media addicts proposing that we let liberals win whenever setbacks are encountered, real or imagined. It's from the Substack Conundrum Cluster. If you are on social media, particularly X, and you are the algorithmic persuasion, if you are the algorithmic persuasion that you're getting fed right-wing or what's perceived to be right-wing material, content, boy howdy, does what I just read for you, that satire that I just read for you, does that not describe that to a T? Histrionics. Yesterday, today, forever. There is a line in there, though. That's the subject of our next question on Ask or Tell Me Anything. The line about that was sarcastically framed. Hey, we can't do anything like, picking good primary candidates. Light the Dark California says, why would a real conservative run for office when Trump only backs compliant candidates, not those opposing land grabs, data center overreach, or energy inflation? If you challenge bad policy, you get iced out. Is this politics or loyalty enforcement? Well, one quick point of order here. You said Trump only backs compliant candidates. Is that really true? Is that true 100% of the time? See, when we were going through premarital counseling, and I'm sure many of you who are married probably have similar stories, one of the things that the counselors say is you should avoid, if not completely cut out of your vocabulary, always or never statements. Because there's no takesy-backsies with those. You always are this way. You never do this. That's not really true. Instead, you need to articulate what your true concern is. Now, so with that as the precursor here, that it's not true that Trump only picks bad candidates. He does endorse bad candidates way too often. Way too often. Some of those not bad candidates won earlier this week, but it was at the state legislator level in Indiana. Is this politics? Is this loyalty enforcement? Yes. As an example, in my home state of Iowa right now, Trump has not made an endorsement. Randy Feenstra, one of our congressmen, is running for governor to replace Kim Reynolds. He's been running for governor for quite some time. It would not surprise me if Randy Feenstra has begged for Trump's endorsement the couple of opportunities publicly logged, publicly covered, that Trump and Feenstra have been together. No endorsement from Trump. Feenstra is a rhino. I mean, he's terrible. He's bad. Not only policy-wise, although he did have a good vote a couple of weeks ago on liability for certain ag businesses. He's terrible. In person, as a candidate, he's just not engaging at all. At least if he was charismatic, that would make the medicine go down with this. No, he's not that. Now, we have some challengers to Randy Feenstra on the Republican side who are new to politics. Adam Steen, Zach Lane are two of them, and they seem to be perception-wise leading. Brad Sherman, who has been a state legislator as well, not new to politics, and I like him as well, but he seems to be lagging behind. And Eddie Andrews, also not new to politics. He's been a state legislator as well. I like all those guys except for Randy Feenstra. Trump hasn't endorsed anybody, though. Anybody. In a state that he's visited this year. I think the reason for that, I don't know for sure, but my hunch tells me the reason Trump has not endorsed Feenstra especially is because Trump has some polling that's maybe not available publicly that shows him Feenstra's DOA. Even if he wins the primary, he's going to lose the general. So you don't want his endorsement. You don't want to endorse that guy. He's DOA. So that's politics. Look at Thomas Massie. And that entire charade episode, whatever you want to call it, that's loyalty enforcement. Now, sometimes the politics of things work out in our favor. Sometimes loyalty enforcement works out in hardcore conservatives' favor. But that's not very often. And that's what we're seeing. That's just my take on it anyway. Let's go to this. Michigan Progressive Communist Watch says, what are your thoughts on Spencer Pratt running for LA mayor? I really don't know the guy. He's running as a Republican. He came out with that fantastic campaign ad. Just going to Karen Bass's house. Look at this mansion. Look at this other city leader's mansion. They're not burned down. Here's where I live. In a camper because my house burned down because Karen Bass let it burn down. One of the best ads of the 2020s. So I don't know much about him. He couldn't be worse, I don't think, than Karen Bass or whatever the name of the councilwoman who's also running for mayor. Carrie Howard says, do you think there's something the Trump administration knows that we don't concerning midterms? They aren't dumb people and have to know if we continue the way we are now, we're going to get crushed. I'm just going to tell it to you straight. Here's the honest reality of what we're seeing here. I don't know. I think we should normalize sometimes saying, I don't know. I know I am. If you put a gun to my head and ask me, I think it's some combination of Trump maybe being surrounded by people who tell him what he wants to hear. A combination of that. Some data that is actually objectively good, that maybe things economically, energy prices or oil prices notwithstanding, economically, there are indicators showing that things are picking up. And so he's not too concerned about that yet. And 3, what's going on in Iran is a legacy project for him, worth all the political capital he's expending. I think it's some combination of those 3. You are correct. They are not dumb people. Say what you want about Susie Wiles, and a lot of people have said some not so pleasant things about her. She's not a dumb person. She's not a dummy. So I don't truly know what their strategy is right now. It could be as simple as it's May, it's early May. People don't really start paying attention until maybe the middle of summer, but definitely Labor Day. And so let's make sure we're not, let's keep our gunpowder dry, not shoot our entire wad here way too soon. So maybe that gives you a little bit of context. That's kind of my read, gun to head. Let's go to this. Country Squire says the GOP understands that they are the lesser of 2 evils to conservatives, and if the greater evil is eliminated, that will just make them evil, so they will continue to be feckless. Maybe. I think you're giving them too much credit. I think Occam's razor here, the simplest explanation for something you can't figure out, is usually the correct explanation. The Occam's razor to your query here is that most Republicans just don't agree with you. Most Republicans have more in common with a Graham Plattner, Nazi, death camp tattoos notwithstanding. Most Republicans have more in common with James Tallarico or Graham Plattner than they do with you, if you're listening to a show like this. We've already gone a half an hour. We've gone a half an hour on today's episode. That's going to do it. Remember, coming on Monday, the full rebrand of the AM Update. Also full bore into YouTube, recommitting myself to this, doubling down. Please spread the word, if you would, about the AM Update. Try to do this as a service, news and commentary with a little bit of my spin mixed in, but not trying to spin you. That's going to do it for this week. Back at it again on Monday.